Welcome to Craig's Gun Channel. In this video, we're going to take the Henry AR7 survival rifle out to the range. Go ahead and try it out and see how it does. And we're out in the range today with the Henry AR7 survival rifle. This is the current iteration of what originally started off as the Armalite AR7. Henry has made some modifications and some improvements with it to help reliability and function, so we'll go ahead and see how it does. This is the first shots out of the box for this, so we'll see how it does. Well, it shoots, which is uncharacteristic of me, a little bit to the right, a little bit low. There again, the sights are slightly adjustable on this. I'm not going to bother adjusting them, but we'll go ahead and take some more shots, and I'll try to adjust a little bit just aim-wise to see if I can, bring it in on target. Now what I'm using now is some of the original AR7 magazines. The Henry did make some improvements to the magazines themselves, so we'll see how these ones work. And already they're not feeding quite as good. Overall, seem to feed fine. And this one does not want to feed at all, so not gonna force it. We'll just got one other magazine here to try. That one popped in a little bit better. There we go. And yep, it's not wanting to feed. Overall at the range, I found the Henry, the AR7 survival rifle, to be a perfectly fine little rifle. It's fairly accurate. Now, in my case, the sights were off slightly, so they are adjustable a little bit, drift adjustable on the front. You have a little bit of adjustment on the rear to be able to dial that in more if you wanted to. I probably won't even really mess with that personally because I won't be shooting this gun a lot. I purchased this firearm because I think they're neat. If you're purchasing it for using as an actual everyday plinking rifle, there's a lot better ones out there, probably for less money even, or about the same price. These rifles, they're perfectly fine. Function-wise, no issues. Now, I did have a couple issues, but those were because of the magazines. I was using some of the older Charter Arms magazines, which those were known to have issues, and they kind of illustrated it here. This thing operated fine with the Henry magazines, which they've done some work and development to make them better. The older Charter Arms ones, they have issues, and it's inherent with the design. There's no feed ramp into the chamber on the barrel in these rifles. The feed ramp is integral with the magazine, and the magazines that were made by Charter Arms, you might get a good one, and the next couple might be bad, or vice versa. But they had a lot of issues, and I had issues with this new rifle using those older magazines. Using the Henry reworked magazines, I didn't have any problems at all. Reliability was just fine. The gun, it shoots fine. Now, with that being said, trigger's terrible. This was, Henry did a lot of work to overall kind of redesigning this a little bit, mostly in the stock to make the stock more functional. The original Charter Arms ones, you could put the receiver and the barrel would go into the stock, and one magazine would go into the stock, and you couldn't have the magazine in the receiver. So Henry, they kind of reworked it, so now you can have a magazine in the receiver, and it holds 2 more, so you can have 3 total magazines, and the receiver and the barrel all in the stock. The price you pay for that is the stock's a little bit wider. The stock itself on these is not super comfortable. They're a little awkward. They're kind of odd looking. See if you can kind of see that. They're kind of an off-center design. It kind of humps up here. That's where the front end of the barrel goes. There again, this is a design that was built dependent upon the function that it was intended to be used for. And it was intended to be a rifle that you could put everything in the stock. So the stock had to make some sacrifices to make that happen. Also, there's no fore end. Same reason, because everything has to fit inside the stock. So it's not really a good place to put your offhand when you're shooting. Now, because it is this 22 long rifle, it doesn't get incredibly hot. You can just hold it by the barrel. You tend to want to try to grasp it right here, and that's fine as long as you don't put too much pressure on the magazine, because then you could start to affect the geometry and cause some feed issues. I didn't have that problem with it. However, I was kind of careful not to do that. Overall, worked fine. Like I said, the trigger on it's terrible. You get trigger slap. Just how the design is made. The trigger and the sears, both the primary and the secondary sear, are all on one piece. So what that means is when you pull the trigger and the bolt goes back to reset the hammer, it pushes the trigger forward a little bit, and that causes what's called trigger slap, and that's where the trigger flies forward just a tiny bit. And it can become painful after a while, especially because with the trigger being kind of as narrow as it is. There again, it's not terrible. It's just, keep in mind, it's not a good trigger. It's kind of gritty. It's just not a good trigger. There's no other way to put it. There's not really a way to make it a good trigger. So if you wanted to get one of these and rework the trigger to make it shoot really good, just don't waste your time or money. That's not what these were made for. These were made to be able to collapse into the stock and put it in a backpack, and that way you have a rifle if you need it. It wasn't really designed to be a plinking gun to go out and do a whole lot of shooting with. Do people use it for that? Sure, they do. But there are better options out there for it. Now, with that being said, I bought this because I find it neat. I like the design. If you decide you want one of these, unless you just want one for collector purposes, I would stay away from the older ones, from like Survival Arms or Charter Arms, because they're just not as good. Henry has done a good job updating these, bringing them up to modern materials, modern manufacturing techniques. There's now the built-in rail on it. It's just, the Henry ones are a much better design. So just keep that in mind. And then, of course, the magazines are much better from Henry as well. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and wrap up, I guess. Overall, I like it. Just keep in mind what it was designed for and what it's truly useful for. It's more I hate to use the word novelty, but it's more a novelty type firearm than anything else. Even as for its intended purpose as a collapsible or backup gun, in all honesty, there's better options that are out there now. The Ruger Takedown, for example, way better than this rifle, but they do cost a little bit more as well. But just keep that in mind. So interesting firearm. It functioned well. I didn't have any issues with it. Just keep in mind what you're actually getting if you decide to get one. So I hope that this information is of value. If you liked the video, I would ask that you hit the like button and subscribe if you want to continue to see more like this. Make sure you hit the notification bell to be notified when we release new videos. And I guess we'll go ahead and wrap up with there. I value your comments and feedback, so please let me know what you think. And if you have any questions, I'll try to address as many as I can. So I guess we'll go ahead and wrap up. Until next time, stay safe.